I'm Osborne Foreman, and in this video I'm going to reveal my motivations for creating content on YouTube and how I spend my income / profits that I make from it. And if you find the video useful or entertaining, please drop one of these as it really helps the channel. Thank you. So firstly, to start with my motivations, the primary goal behind investing, or at least investing my portfolio in stocks, is so that I can benefit myself in the future. The idea is that I don't want to be working for the rest of my life, and therefore if I'm putting money aside now to be working for me rather than continually working for the money, have the money work for you rather than you working for it, I hope that over the longer term future, I'll be able to build up a substantial amount of wealth so that I may not need to continue working. This is defined as financial independence, the idea that your investments cover all of your regular bills and thus you could live pretty much your everyday life without having to work another day. However, even if I do reach financial independence, I may not stop working just then, as why would I sit there when I could go a lot further? This doesn't mean I want to quit my job by any means, as I enjoy what I do, and if you don't know, I work in a pub, I'm weekly paid, and I'm currently furloughed, but I'm set to go back next month. The end goal of financial independence is hopefully that I could work from anywhere, perhaps travel the world, but also still be able to maintain a strong income so that I could work from abroad, or perhaps even live abroad without having to work. That would be the goal. That's the long-term goal that's in the back of my mind anyway. My primary motivations behind YouTube, which may not be a surprise, is to make money. I'd love to say that, hey, look, I'm all this noble person that's decided to try and educate people on investing, but that simply just would not be the truth. The case is that I wanted to improve my own knowledge in investing, because I feel that right now, if I'm able to put as much knowledge and time and research into the stock market at a young age, that hopefully 10, 20 years down the line, it may help myself when deciding in investments, and it may mean that my portfolio returns are much better in the future because of the learning experiences I create now at the age of 21. But primarily, the idea is that if I'm creating content on YouTube, especially about specific stocks, for example, this pressures me to learn more about this stock, understand the alternative views, see why people invest in these stocks, see the trends in these stocks in which the stocks that have got specific trends, they might, for instance, be growing their revenue at a great speed. These might correlate to stocks that have performed really well in the past. So it's that idea that hopefully I'll be able to spot these easier by learning more on YouTube. And since I have to talk about them on videos, it also means that I need to know more than I'm teaching, as you need to educate yourself enough to be able to teach it to someone else. And I hope that it really ensures that I'm on the top of my game at all times and therefore maintains a higher level of quality in the content. And I feel that whilst I do work in a pub, I feel that there's not really much scalability or long-term potential. Now, I don't know if anyone from where I work is watching this video, but the idea is that I believe that it's a much more difficult route to take if I wanted to earn a lot more. For instance, if I wanted to work my way up the ladder to a higher income, that could likely take decades. And that's a lot of stress because working in a pub is more stressful than you may believe. And so I feel that the easier route is to therefore provide services online, or for instance, do YouTube online via investing, as it's something I truly enjoy and therefore makes it more difficult to burn out of rather than working for someone else. I should also mention my profits. So that would mean what I make from YouTube itself. So if I tell you about my work income, which is roughly around £250 per week, but it does change and it is variable. But regardless, the general trend is between £230 and £260 per week, and that is my consistent income from working in the pub or being furloughed currently. Then in the month of February, I made £262.18 from YouTube monetization, or the adverts that will play on the video. This would be a really smooth time for an advert too. But this is also before tax, so this is pre-tax, please keep that in mind, whereas my work income has already been taxed at standard rates. I then made £157.65 from Freetrade free share referrals. This is the idea that I would say, hey, if you'd like a free share worth up to £200, then click the link in the description down below and sign up using my link. And if you'd like to do that, that link is down below where you can get a free share. That was really cheesy. But the idea is that when I refer someone to sign up to Freetrade, they'll get a free share and I will too. So I am compensated in that way, but there's no perhaps partnership between myself and Freetrade. Although so far in March, this income has genuinely fallen off of a cliff. This is likely because I'm only doing 2 videos a week now as opposed to 3 videos a week, and also because my RPM, or revenue per mil, which is how much money I make per 1,000 views on YouTube, has fallen off of a cliff. And this might be as there's so many people watching YouTube at the moment that advertisers don't see as much value in it. So perhaps when the lockdowns end, that might increase once more, but I'm only speculating on the income side of things. And other than that, I make no more money from YouTube. And these free trade profits, I believe, are subject to capital gains, in which they should be in the allowance, and therefore it's post-tax. But I'm not entirely sure on that matter. And in fact, I've not spent this money. This money is sat in the account it came from, and I will deal with it when I do my self-assessment tax returns. Furthermore, the YouTube earnings, I subtract 35% straight off of my earnings, keep that in cash in my bank account that is separate from my main personal current account, and then I leave it there. If I make any business expenses, I also make the precaution of going from my personal account, putting that money into my business account, or it's not really a business account, but my other current account, and then spending that money. So at least I still have that buffer level of cash. And say when I do my self-assessment tax returns, I have extra surplus cash left over, that'd be a good spot for an emergency fund, in which case, if my camera breaks, my computer breaks, or I need a new plant for some reason, I might be able to buy one without worrying about going into debt. I will admit I also do have a Patreon in which I offer a few benefits, such as being able to see all my portfolio activity, buys and sells, early access to all those trades, as well as notes depending on the day. I also have my stock watch list, which has all of my price targets, the stocks I'm interested in, and that's got a back catalogue so that you could go and look through there at any point. There's also an exclusive Discord Patreon chat in which you'll be able to reach out to me specifically or ask others in the community, as it is a private group or private chat room in which you could perhaps learn more than usual. Although at the moment I will admit I have absolutely no Patreons. And that's fine because I've only really uploaded this or made it public in the last 2 weeks. This means that I'm roughly earning around £350 per week, although as I said before, I'm not taking into account free trade returns, and my YouTube earnings is obviously subtracted by 35%. But this means that I have the capital available to spend it. So how do I do this? Well, firstly, let's go through the regular bills. To start, I have a phone contract, which is at £10 a month, and it is, I believe, 12 gigabytes of data, unlimited text, and unlimited calls. However, I got a cashback deal on this, which is no longer available. That means that I only have to pay £3 per month. Regardless, when we look at my other regular bills, you can see there's a £30 a week payment. This is my rent. And yes, I do live with my parents, and £30 per week does really not cover the expenses of power, let alone internet, for example. And so there's obviously, I'm underpaying in the grand scheme of things, but then some people that live with their parents don't pay anything. I will admit I was forced into paying this. I didn't choose to actively do this, but I think that this is a fair value, at least in my behalf, and it means I can save a majority of the rest of my income. Furthermore, you'll notice that £125 per week immediately after I get my paycheck is put into my investment ISA. This is money that will not change. I will make sure that that money goes into my investment ISA every single week, as this is the most important for generating my wealth over the longer term. So that goes into it, and then you'll see the stock buys on the portfolio update series updated every Sunday. I also paid for Freetrade PLUS, or at least in February, I don't believe I had it, as they refunded it, I believe, to my credit card. And yes, I pay it with a credit card, which is using a weird way of doing it. It's really complicated, if I'm honest, but it involves using Curve. Anyway, that is my Barclay card. You'll see it says £3. That will be my ISA fee. However, in months going forward, that will be £9.99. Then if you look at the rest, you'll likely see that there isn't actually much discretionary spending. And I say when you look at the rest, I'm assuming that I do show the bank statement, but if not, I genuinely do not spend much. I don't find myself to be a consumer. I see this as opportunities to be buying more stocks. My computer screen's gone off. That's really annoyed me as it's on frame now. But the idea is that this money, I would rather buy investments. I get a lot of entertainment. It also goes towards my business, and I like to watch stocks and buy them. So what you'll see is that I regularly put more money into my investment ISA, or as much as I can feasibly afford. That's where you can see these routine £125 payments, and I try to keep it on that specific type of multiple so that it's just easier to track, especially with how much I've put into the ISA and not reaching the limit, although I don't think I will reach the limit, but I am about £4,500 away from doing so, although I have less than a month. And then if I do buy anything, it's likely what I would consider to be investments. And I've done air quotes here because it's sort of like a way I deceive myself. I might go, right, I really need a product, and then I will look for a high quality product that might benefit me in the future, something that will last a while, and thus I trick myself into buying things I don't necessarily need. For example, I bought this watch on Amazon about probably half a year ago now, and whilst I didn't necessarily need it, I did want it. And I thought, well, it's an investment, it should hold its value over time, and thus it's probably a good place to put your money. And other things like the plant pot, which again, it was less than a tenner. I figured, hey, a bit of green on the desk might make things look nicer. And so I'll be buying things perhaps, and I think in the last 2 months it's on Amazon, and for some reason my American Express credit card statement isn't available, but typically I put my discretionary spend on that American Express card. For example, I would have bought around £30 worth of products on Amazon, and that's happened both in February and March so far, although the second portion of the payments I would consider to be business expenses. But other than that, I don't really buy things I don't need. An example of this would be is that my food bills are covered, although you would need food. I don't purchase alcohol per se. I don't smoke. I may have a vape, but I've not used it in the last year, nor do I have much of an interest for it. I don't really have expensive hobbies. YouTube is one of my biggest hobbies and takes a lot of my time, but I also do occasionally play video games on the computer, hence the fancy keyboard thing that's designed for gaming, if you've ever wondered what that was, because that still confuses me, to be honest. But yeah, so on the computer, I typically play multiplayer games. A lot of those games are typically free, and so if anything, I'll likely be purchasing DLC for a game, or perhaps a new game, but it really doesn't total much, as I have quite a big games library that I've built in the last 10 years, and so it's not really necessary for me to buy the latest games, especially because my computer may not be able to run all of the newest games. But other than that, I don't really buy anything. I know what I need to buy. I've tried planning ahead so that I know what I would need when I potentially move out, and I'm trying to actually remove as much stuff as possible that I hold on to, as a lot of this stuff I believe I won't need in the future, and such less personal belongings would make it a lot easier to be able to move and potentially travel abroad when the time comes. That in total means that if I'm not investing my cash, spending it on, for instance, video games or unnecessary plants to add to the desk, that means that that money is likely going to be sitting in cash in my bank account. However, usually what happens around that point is the markets start to take a dive like they did in the last few weeks with the latest correction, and thus the money gets pumped back into the investment account to buy more stocks to hold for the longer term. And since I don't plan on touching this money inside the ISA, I am not too bothered about it. That money is effectively something that will be put away for the long term. I'm happy, and it actually is sort of a savings hack. For instance, when you have your current account on a really low balance, as then you're in perhaps more survival mode and you're less likely to spend. For instance, if there's only £20 in my current account, I'm not going to move money from another account just to buy something. I'll just be like, you know what, I'll hold off. I'll wait till my next paycheck, which fortunately is easier because I am paid weekly, and so I guess that would make sense in that regard. For the sake of budgeting, although because YouTube is paid monthly and delayed a month later, I'm paid weekly by my employment, it does make things a little bit confusing and more difficult to budget than necessary, but since I don't spend much, I think I'm alright. I expect it to build nice and slowly, and I'll take a lot of time putting time and effort into this to hopefully build it up over the longer term, so that perhaps in the future my income streams are more diversified and I'll likely still spend less, as I might as well just scrounge all the pennies together. Scrounge. That's like a mixture of like scrounge and scourge. That's not quite what I went for, but the idea is that I would likely just be holding all of the money together and saving it as I'm in the position to be able to, and at least whilst I'm not paying for household bills, which are really going to cut into it in the future, I might as well make the most out of this opportunity. And if the same happens to you, if you live with your parents and you're able to save this money, I highly encourage that you take the time to save as much of it as possible. You're still going to have money over to go out and enjoy life, and I will admit the pandemic has likely made it easier, especially in my case, as I'll only need a few video games, I don't necessarily need to go out. But the idea is there. If you're with your parents, definitely try and save as much as possible, even if you don't think you'll be moving out for the next 5-10 years, as that cash will quickly mount up. And this time last year, I did not expect my portfolio to be at the value it is. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in my portfolio update, which was quite a big update, the 50th episode, then click the card at the top right of the video. Thank you for watching. Have a great afternoon. Wow, that was really terrible. I'm not with it today.